From 1926 to 2010, Pontiac would create some of the most legendary icons to ever cruise the boulevard. A niche brand in General Motors' lineup that would devote its entire existence to performance.
And that's why tonight we take a look at one Pontiac that blew away the competition when it came to aerodynamics and styling. It even beat the 1984 Chevrolet Corvette for the honor of being the Indianapolis 500 pace car. Tonight on Speed.
In a world where car companies are numbered in the hundreds, Chevrolet, Pontiac, Honda, Mitsubishi, GMC, Lotus, Toyota, Acura, Nissan, Lexus, Jeep, you need to know the facts, the latest information for everything about cars, trucks, motorcycles, and ATVs. This is Speed.
Here comes excitement. Pontiac. Here come the hot cars. Everything feel for the road. Excitement. Pontiac.
We all have an idea of what a sporty two-seater car should look like. It has to meet a level of criteria that can be matched by none other. It has to look good, has to have plenty of attitude, power, and most of all, has to have fun. So when Pontiac wanted to introduce their car to the world, it had no choice but to make an economy car that looked like it was worth $1 million. We give you the Pontiac Fiero.
Pontiac Fiero GT.
Want to see something really exciting?
Fiero GT, now with the authority of a fuel-injected V6. Fiero. You got it, Pontiac.
The Fiero was the first two-seater Pontiac since the 1926 and 1938 coupes. It was also the first and only mass-produced mid-engine sports car by a U.S. manufacturer at the time. This may come to as a shock for some people, but many of the technologies incorporated into the Fiero design, such as the plastic body panels, were called radical for its time. A total of 370,000 Fieros were produced over the relatively short production run of 5 years. By comparison, 163,000 Toyota MR2s were sold in the first 5 years. The word Fiero means proud in Italian, and wild, fierce, or ferocious in Spanish. Alternative names considered for the car were the Sprint, P3000, Pegasus, Fiamma, Sunfire, and Firebird XP. The Fiero 2M4, which stood for two-seat, mid-engine, four-cylinder, was on Car and Drivers Magazine's 10 Best list for 1984. Also that same year, the Fiero had the privilege of being the official pace car of the Indianapolis 500, beating out the new 1984 Chevrolet Corvette for the honor. The Fiero turned out to be an unusual design for GM, which stood out from the rest of its product lines at the time. Initially, the company had rejected the development of a sporty two-seater Pontiac since the late 1960s, as they believed it would steal from the sales of the Chevrolet Corvette. However, young Pontiac engineers in '78 were able to sell the Fiero concept to the corporation as a fuel-efficient four-cylinder commuter car that just also so happened to have 2 seats, rather than a muscle car. However, the budget for the car, from design to building the machines for making the parts, was only $400 million, just a fraction of what GM generally spent on bringing a typical prototype car into production. The initial challenge was with GM's corporate structure, which split its engineers in 2 categories: the car's engineers who would create blueprints for the car, and manufacturing engineers who would work out the fabrication and assembly issues. Fiero blueprints traveled back and forth between the 2 engineering branches, wasting time and money. There was a forced sit-down for the 2 teams to meet. Many modifications in the Fiero's production needed to be made. For instance, as the prototypes took shape, the exterior lines resembled more of a Ferrari or a Porsche than a typical GM car. But the tight budget was taking its toll on the design, particularly on the dream of having a high-performance aluminum block V6 in the car. The cost of developing a new engine would be more than the production of the whole car itself. Instead, it was forced to settle for the already manufactured 4-cylinder engine GM produced for the Pontiac, the Iron Duke. the engine was too blocky to fit into the tiny car, so it was equipped with a smaller oil pan, causing the engine to always run a quart low. Throughout all the problems that were forced during the initial stages of creating the car, the Fiero turned out to be one of Pontiac's hot sellers. While all Fiero models are considered to be collectibles, the '88 model year is especially sought after by collectors due to its limited production numbers and vastly improved underpinnings. Because of an exorbitance of replacement parts available from other GM vehicles, there are many upgrades that can be done to improve performance and reliability of the cars. When the Fiero's 1984 model was introduced, it played a major role in the building excitement image that Pontiac wanted to establish into its car buyers, making this one of Pontiac's best cars of all time.
The Pontiac Fiero was more of an engineering success rather than a sales one, and though it did do very well at the dealerships, it was only around for about 5 years. The one thing that it did lead the way was for its automakers. It gave them a reason to look at how they could make cars. Instead of using big bulky pieces of metal and making them look like boxes, they could see how they could shape things with plastics, make it more aerodynamic, and give an easier principle on how to make more money and sell more product. Until next time, I'm your host, Brian Bon Barrios, and thanks for watching Speed, the only show about cars, trucks, motorcycles, and ATVs.
Break away, in a firebird. Break away, in a Grand Prix. Break away, in a GTR. Break away, in a wide track in Pontiac. Because a wide track in Pontiac is the breakaway car.